Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm StevieBlu. Welcome back to another video that literally nobody's going to watch. I thought I would, on the back of the last video, make a little video about the 5 things that right now I love about Dauntless. I think they're applicable to 2024. I think they're applicable to the state of the game right now. And they are things that have kept me wanting to wake up every day and, fire up the PC and play it. So, without further ado, here we go. Number 5, I think the gameplay loop is great. I think it's the essence of any sort of game. If the gameplay is not there, your game's going to fail. But with Dauntless, right now, I think you have 2 different ways you can kind of approach the game. One of which appeals to me greatly, given my kind of gaming background. You can choose to either take your time, play through it, take it all in, try and min-max your characters and all that sort of stuff as you're leveling. Or I think you have the chance to kind of be pure optimization and speedrun focused. Now I think this is 2 different types of people this applies to. You kind of have your speedrunners and then you have your kind of non-speedrunners, for lack of a better term. I definitely fall into the speedrun category. Whether I'm officially speedrunning something or not, I definitely find myself wanting to try and be as optimal as possible. Trying to get through the content as fast as I can. It adds a new challenge to me that is kind of innately in any game, but I think this game lends itself well to being speed played. I see content from other creators and stuff that are literally speedrunning the game through, a reforge, or things like that, trying to get to a certain milestone as quick as possible. I don't literally mean that when I say this, but I mean it's a game that kind of, with the loop of reforging and starting through again slightly quicker, almost like a roguelike, it kind of lends itself well to try and naturally optimize itself anyway and give you that satisfaction of improvement, whereas a normal kind of campaign game where you run through ABC, very linear, it doesn't necessarily give you that. So I really do like that about this game. I also happen to be kind of playing alongside someone who has the opposite approach. They like to kind of look a bit better, which will lead me on to a point later. They like to kind of take it all in, just enjoy it and absorb the moment with not worrying about getting to the end goal fast. And I think the fact that we can play in tandem really is a good testament to the game. Number 4, I think, is the variety of weapons and gear combinations you can get. So currently right now, there are 7 weapons in the game, all of which I think play vastly different, especially the repeaters being the only ranged weapon that you have. I haven't put a substantial amount into all of them, but I've put enough into all of them now where I know that they feel completely different to each other, at least for me. And when I switch from playing with one for a matter of hours and I switch to another, I find myself in habits from other weapons that don't apply, and I find myself getting shat on by whatever I'm fighting at the time, or just looking like a complete noob to my team, which I struggle with at the best of times. So I don't need to be getting in bad habits with other weapons. I think this is great because I think it kind of widens your scope to players for it to appeal to. Not everyone will necessarily like every weapon, but the chances are someone is going to fall into a weapon they do like, and that will keep them hooked in the game long enough to play it through and experience all the different mechanics that the game has. So that's absolutely awesome. That's probably would be the first recommendation point from me to friends to actually pick the game up and give it a shot. Number 3, the game is beautiful and is filled with monkey brain flashy animations. Now what do I mean by this? Well, what I mean is this game and its graphic style is quite literally that. It's a style. It's not going for realism. It's more on the fantasy and stylized kind of approach. This will always outlast realism with the development and quick, how fast technology is coming along. If something's going for hyper realism, that's going to get outdated pretty much yearly. However, if you're going for a style, and this is obvious from games, even from the N64 and things like that, games like Banjo-Kazooie, for example, that game still looks class now because it's not realistic. It's got its own style, and it is gorgeous, even not through nostalgic glasses, if you know what I'm saying. So this game for me is an art style that I kind of love. Um, it's very kind of fantasy cartoony, almost uncanny valley at times, but I really do enjoy it. I think it's full of love. It's got a great color palette. It's something I noticed. The colors are really nice. It allows people that like to go for kind of um, cool looking gears and armor and that sort of stuff, look spec as they call it in MMOs. People that like to play like that really can get the chance to do that in this. It's not bland, it's not generic, it's not like an army simulator or anything like that. You really can stand out, and I do come across some players that have clearly spent thousands of hours, and you can tell because they look wicked. And I think that's just so cool. It's one of the things that really kind of makes doing things that would be that you've done plenty of times. It gives you things you remember, and you remember seeing people, and it makes them stand out. Number 2 is the ability to be a solo player. This is important for me. I don't often play with friends as much as I'd like to. I have quite a crazy schedule, I'd say. So I find myself hopping on where and when I can. So to be able to play on my own and experience the same content as having to group up with people, it's priceless to me. I think the fact enemies scale, and they seem to scale well. I'm not sure about the actual intricacies and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure if you crunch the numbers, it might be a little bit, off somewhere. I'm not sure, but to me, it doesn't seem to be, and I think that's so cool. It's very nice to have the ability that some days to just run around on my own, know that I've got no sort of pressure from anything. I can do my own thing, I can practice my own things, and I can know that when something dies, or when I die, it's purely me. Because oftentimes I find I'll come across people that are either insanely good or insanely bad, and I can't tell if things are dying because of me or if I'm dying because of me. So being able to queue by myself, is a really good thing to have. That leads me on to another little side point, a little honourable mention. This game's brilliant because every time you seem to kill a boss, and I've talked about this with a few people, you kind of get the feeling that that was all me. It empowers you to feel like you are in a David and Goliath story, and you're the one taking down these things solo, and it's just amazing, the feeling of that. But you really can do it solo, and it's a great way to practice and improve in the game if that's what you're into. Number 1, ultimately, is the fair game model it has. So this game's free. It's not predatory, and it's absolutely awesome to see a game in this day and age especially that's still kicking. I mean, the game could well and truly be on life support by now. It's not in its peak players by any stretch of the imagination, but it's really cool to see a game that, for me at least, when I see things like this for a free to play, I mean, I guess it could be pay to win in the sense of they could get away with it because there's no PvP elements, but it's really not. I don't see much of anything in the way of people getting any sort of advantage. I can't see a way to get an advantage. I mean, you could save yourself some time, but as a free player myself, I'd like to think I've advanced quite a long way in 50 hours. That's a long time for a lot of people, but I think it's absolutely more than fair, especially for a free game. It's cross-platform. It just runs well. It just seems really nice. And I think for it to be so many years after its release, I think it's great that it's still being supported. It's completely free, and you just have it's just got an honest business model behind it, which I think these are getting fewer and far between now in the game industry, which is kind of making me feel a bit sick, to be honest. But you've got your companies like EA. It's going to drive companies to kind of follow suit because it's so monetarily beneficial to them. So it's really cool to see this, and I hope this carries on, and more companies, especially indies, kind of take up this sort of model, because ultimately it's only going to benefit those because they get such a higher standard player base, doing it this way, because the entry barrier is non-existent because it's free. So props to those guys for doing that. And anyway, guys, I thought that would be it. Just 5 little things that I thought about, reasons why even in 2024 these things will keep you entertained and definitely get, I mean, technically infinite value for money out of the game. because it's a lot of fun for me right now, and I'm going to keep you updated with more going in the future. Thank you guys. Feel free to give me a sub or anything like that, and check out the 5 that will be in the description if you like the sound of my weird ass English voice. Thank you guys. See you in the next one.